Hi, my name is Eline, and with this podcast, I dive deep into the world of chronic illness. What is living with a chronic illness like? What are ways to redefine your purpose when life hit you so hard? How do people do this? I am on the lookout for answers to find out if there is a way to have a life filled with freedom, joy, and happiness, even when it feels like you're a prisoner in your own body. Welcome. Hello, welcome back to the Spanish Community Podcast. I'm here with my dear friend and powerhouse, Manouk de Bijl. Manouk was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis 12 years ago after a year of symptoms like blood in her stool and pain. And after 5 years of hospital treatment, she started broadening her horizons and taking back control into holistic health. Today, she's here symptom-free and with her own program, Gut Alchemy, to help others on this journey, amongst many other things that she's doing as well within women's work and health. And she's my dear friend, and I'm so honored that you're here. So welcome, Manouk.
Thank you, sweetheart. I am feeling really honored to be here.
I'm so happy you're here, honestly.
Yeah, excited.
I'm very excited to be diving into this story of yours. Also because when we met, you were the first one to help me push my boundaries a little bit in the very first group yoga session that I did after God knows how many years. It was, after 5 years, I think, of not being able to do a group session. And you were there holding space for me so beautifully. And then, figuring out after class that you also had your own health journey. I think, at least for me, immediately, build a connection there. So
Massively. I was sharing with my friends yesterday about what we were going to do today. And then they were like, wow, so how did you meet? And I was telling the story and I was sharing this yoga studio that you came to is not at all suitable for wheelchairs at all. Also a yoga class when you can't really use your legs. Like for me, it was the first time to have someone like you in the class. And that, we were both so open. And I was more feeling like, wow, what a responsibility and in awe of you in that journey. And I remember we were sitting next to each other after the class and just connect. And since then it's been history. So really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. So you have your own health story as well. Can you, before we start getting into the illness part of it, can you just describe who you were? Who was Manouk before you got your diagnosis and before you got your first symptoms?
Takes me back a little while, quite a while. Because I was diagnosed when 17, so it was my youth, my childhood. And Manouk from then was very happy, cheerful, young girl, the eldest of 3 daughters. So oldest daughter energy for sure.
Yes, love that.
For sure.
Fellow oldest here.
Usually also ones that have more health issues. We'll get into that for sure. I would say very joyful, very happy. When I close my eyes, I see myself running around in the grass and building things with my sisters in nature and very nature oriented, very family oriented, beautiful holidays with my family. Yeah, quite a privileged, happy, calm life in the south of the Netherlands, a small village. Many friends. I had a beautiful youth. Look back at it with so much great gratitude for my parents as well. Of course, you're still sisters and family, so there was always something, and our connection grew deeper and deeper as we grew older, actually. But I look at my childhood very fondly.
So loving, so beautiful. And so you said that you were 17 when you started to get your first symptoms. For people who don't know what ulcerative colitis is, can you explain to us what it is?
Yeah, it's an inflammatory bowel disease and it's chronic. So they say it's for the rest of your life. And what happens physically is that there comes an open wound. If this is like your intestine, there's an open wound in your bowel, intestine, gut, 3 words for the same thing, that gets infected. It can also be ulcers, and that becomes a wound. For me, it was like a big wound specifically. My biggest at the time was around 30 centimeters, so that's big. And it's an open wound, meaning the infection. So there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of pus, there's a lot of mucus. what usually happens is that it's really painful, because imagine like having an open wound in the inside of your belly, like
Yeah.
specifically with food, and when you need to go to the toilet, because it just
Yeah, stool
scratches it.
passing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And with that comes a lot of weight loss or rapid weight gain, extreme fatigue, because all your energy goes to your belly, hair loss, and then you have the side effects from the medication that
Yeah.
comes in. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Thank you
debilitating
for.
is the right word.
Yeah, no, 100%. Really, really is. Thanks for explaining that so clearly to all of us. For people who don't know what symptoms of ulcerative colitis could be, what were your symptoms like?
Mm-hmm. My symptoms, I think it started 16 and a half, 17, started to have like blood in my stool. I think that was the biggest symptom at the time. So obviously that's like a red flag.
Yeah.
And then they started doing tests for like a year long, so quite a while. I can't remember right now the English word for it, but they tested a lot on like ambaye.
Piles. That's it.
Piles?
Yeah,
I'm actually not
piles.
sure, but the things that when your intestines kind of come out
Yeah.
of your beautiful booty hole because of the pressure. And usually that accompanies with blood. For some reason, the testing took a long time to
Yeah.
figure it out. So it was a year of like different doctor visits and trying to understand, but mostly blood in stool, bloatiness, but mostly the pain became later, I would say.
Okay.
The biggest red flag was just blood. Yeah.
Do you remember what those first tests were like? Because as you said, like you also don't really know why it took so long that first year. So what kind of tests were they doing?
I think I shared this with you before at the moment, but it's difficult that specific year. It's difficult for me to tap into, right? It's like a bit of a blur. It's like I just graduated high school, so it was a gap year before I started doing university.
Yeah.
And for some reason that year, it's very blurry, but I remember obviously they did like an eye exam. And I believe not until they started doing colonoscopy that they started to go internal and do tests and blood tests and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I remember there wasn't really like an urgency to it for them.
And for you?
I mean, I would say yes. Like blood in your stool is not something that.
No, it's not a good sign.
No.
And so you were obviously doing your gap year then. What was it like, having that hand in hand going together? So you just graduated high school, so you're in the prime time of your life, wanting to go out there doing things, and yet at the same time you also have a health condition that, you're not aware of, but it was gradually getting worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was
Yeah.
it like for you?
It was very debilitating because you're about to open up this biggest chapter of your life in what you think is the biggest chapter of your life, right? And my vision, my dream was to move to Amsterdam, coming from the south and like going to the big city and studying fashion. And yeah, I had this whole life planned out for me, which direction I would go, what things I wanted to do. And then as soon as I started to open that direction a bit, like my body started to be like, wait, hold back. Something is not going there. Regardless of that, I already decided to do a gap year so I could relax a bit more into fashion school, because I was 17, so you're young to move to Amsterdam. Like you're young. I wanted to be 18 and my parents thought it was a better idea. And so I had like these random side jobs so I could make a lot of money and then just eventually to move to Amsterdam, which I did do. Yeah.
So how was that?
Yeah, that's when actually
the year? So was it a year after, like, was it like a full year that you had your gap year and then you moved to Amsterdam, or was it, what was the time? Okay.
Yeah, a full gap year. Yeah. So I was 18 at the time. After the summer. Yeah, excitement. I think, honestly, I can't remember the moment I was diagnosed. Like, I can't remember. I don't remember which doctor said it to me. I don't remember which hospital. Don't remember if my mom was there with me. It's like super blurry. But I do remember from then, like, things just started to go downhill really, really fast because my studies was really demanding. Really demanding, highly, highly, highly stressful. Yeah, and that's when the symptoms became worse and worse and worse. And also I was put on medication. Like after the diagnosis is there, then they can give you medication, right? So, and I remember the first year was intense, really. You move to Amsterdam, you start making new friends. I'm a very social person. So that lifestyle didn't fit with someone that's just diagnosed with a chronic disease,
Yeah.
which I didn't know, but now with the knowledge I know would make it worse.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like living a double life of like trying to be social, trying to, live like a normal 18-year-old studying fashion and like trying to be, cool and like with the nice girls and go out and like see boys. And then I would go in that path for like a week, let's say, and then the week after I would land or end up in the hospital because the contrast was too big. But I didn't know the effect of it then.
Yeah.
Only now, in hindsight.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get
Mhm.
onto that. So your study period. So Manouk and I had a conversation before already. So a few of the questions that I'm asking, we've already discussed privately, but I found it so interesting to have others hear it as well. One of the things I asked you is, we're talking about stool, we're talking about poo, we're talking about your belly, we're talking about, the thing that women don't do because women don't go to the toilet. What was that like for you to manage that during your teenage years as well? Like even 17, but then also afterward to your first years of study in college where you're still, finding your identity and still trying to figure out who you are and how you're putting yourself into this world, and then dealing with something that is, I think, can be perceived as something gross or something that women can't do or can't have. How was it like for you?
It's a very good question. But yeah, there's a big taboo, I think, for everyone, regardless if you're having gut disease or not. It was difficult specifically because my studies, it's very superficial and connected on how we look and how we are perceived and what we create, even though they try to be very arty.
Yeah, so it was a fashion institute in Amsterdam,
It's
right?
a fashion, it was a fashion institute. And at the time it was a bit less modern and woke. So it was about, what's the word when you have going against each other?
Competition?
Competition, yeah. It was very competition based, very, very, very. So that doesn't offer a safe environment to also share really openly about things that we feel as humans quite shamed about. So it was, those two made it actually worse. With my family, I could be really honest and open. I would say that they have been a safe environment they've supported me in my healing journey. Community is a big part of it, as we now know.
Yeah.
But also, the symptoms, something that's really connected to shame is that when you really have a bad day, it could mean you might not be able to hold it. Or the biggest fear every day that I would walk around in is I leave the door and I shit my pants. And to be with that constantly and not really being able, you also don't share it like that, I did have a tiny friend group that knew about it. My school also knew about it because sometimes I just needed to go to the hospital. I had appointments, checkups, and they were very flexible with it, actually. Like, I really am grateful for that. And also, which I know you recognize as well, you can't see it on the outside.
No, I was going to say, it's invisible.
It's invisible. So people, when I was in extreme pain, like I never cycled because it was difficult to cycle and like use my core and like move my body. So I would use the tram a lot. But then in a tram, when I have a bad day, like I would be in so much pain, I need to sit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then you can't really ask, I look like a young, healthy woman, like, please, can I sit? I'm in so much pain. And then you don't want to have that conversation. So that was, I think, annoying.
And with your friends from university, from this fashion institute, what was that like?
With some of them, I'm still amazing friends. Like, we changed our friendship, which I'm really grateful for. Back then, our friendship was based on comparison and grades and like who's the best in a class, what can we create? And I think this is where the women's wound for me really, really, really activated. And kindness, but always with like, I don't want you to have this for yours. Like, there was always poisonous kindness kind of towards it. I have compassion for myself, like I was part of it, yeah. So compassion for myself and these women. And it was a lot about boys and being wanted and chosen and seen and sexual energy. And it's also part of that age, right?
Yeah, of course.
But the Fashion Institute made everything just amplified. So it wasn't at all a healthy environment.
No.
No.
And health-wise, because you mentioned that the moment you got your diagnosis, which is around the period that you moved to Amsterdam and started to study, and you said that that's the moment that everything deteriorated really quickly, like your health really started to decline. Talk us through that period.
So this disease specifically, it's an autoimmune disease, meaning they don't know where it's coming from, meaning it's very stress related. And this specific period in my life, the pressure from the projects that we did, it was inhuman.
Yeah.
So I would skip nights of sleep,
No.
which now I know is one of the most dangerous things we can do to our health and our organ health and our nervous system. But back then it was full survival. Like survival of the fittest, really. Like it was, Mean Girls a bit. The scene where they go all animals out in the, I remember going into school after I graduated and I came in the hallway and I just saw just girls crying. There's also a lot of beauty. I was really also loving it, what I was learning. Like I loved fashion and I loved creativity, but it was cracking under pressure for sure. So the stress that was constantly living in my body in the survival mode, not sleeping and then going out, drinking a lot of alcohol, numbing myself with alcohol. And then the next day you had, like a deadline.
Yeah.
So then you would go out for a night again and really not good, not healthy at all.
And what was the impact of that on your physical health?
Just many hospital visits, I remember taking a lot of medication and nothing would work. So my body rejected a lot, most of it, which I'm really grateful for because it invited me to look elsewhere in the end. But I also know now that I didn't give it the right environment to come into remission at all. So I don't think it even mattered how much medication I took. It was such an unhealthy way of living that.
And what were reasons for you to go to the hospital? Was it the pain? Was it more blood in your stool? What did that look like?
Depends. Usually it's checkups or the medication isn't working. You make an email. You talk with your doctor. You would talk about next approach. Then, okay, you need to see the inflammatory levels. So then another colonoscopy, another blood test. And then a few times it's been such intense pain. I needed to go to the hospital, like acute.
Yeah.
Don't know if that's the right word for it, but.
Go to the A&E.
Yeah. But mostly it's like every 2 weeks, like a checkup. And then sometime with some medication, this was a bit further in line. They had to check my other organs also frequently because it would damage my other organs. So basically just mostly checking in. Also because my body never went into remission because what happens with this disease specifically and also Crohn's, the doctors want you to go into remission. And if you're in remission...
What would that look like, remission? Okay.
No symptoms, you're on medication, and you can live normally-ish.
Okay. Yeah.
That's remission. And active inflammation is blood, pus, mucus, and extreme pain. But I never really went into that remission. So I was always an active inflammation in my body, which is also why the wound grows bigger and bigger and bigger, because obviously it's an infection, it grows.
Yeah.
So many colonoscopies as well that means that they go with a camera inside and they look on the inside of how big or how bad the situation is, how many ulcers, where, because it's also big. It's many meters in there also. So it's a long journey they can go into. Yeah.
But then you said, okay, the medications didn't help. You didn't go into remission. Yet now you're sitting here in remission. Let's talk about that journey. So firstly, what was a turning point for you where you were like, I'm done with this. I need to look elsewhere?
I love this piece because it's my dad joke that I tell everyone. Like, look elsewhere. It's very fitting, and it was like my eye opening. Actually, there's two moments.
Mm-hmm.
Moment one was significantly after 2 years of fashion studies, I took another gap year because my body just couldn't. And that's when they told me, listen, we tried most medication. Your body is not taking anything as working. If it keeps continuing this way, you will eventually develop either colon cancer or we need to have one of these stomas on the outside of your body, which I wasn't really eligible for because my disease is on the end of my bowel. So they can't really take it out.
No.
So then it's just kind of waiting for bowel cancer, intestine cancer. So obviously you don't want that.
No.
And that's when I was like pausing and I was like, you know what? I don't want to live my life like this. This is not living also. At the time I was just recovering from the medication prednisone, which I had a crazy high dose, the highest dose that you can get legally for some reason. I don't know why. And I had it for 6 weeks because longer no bueno.
Yeah.
It took me a year to recover from that.
Oh, wow.
So not only physically, but also mentally. And yeah, I also remember I was, at the time of that news, I was taking injections in my stomach as well, which I was okay, but it shut down my whole immune system. So any moment I would leave the door and there would be bacteria in my body, I would end up in the hospital anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just remember thinking like, and I'm now just waiting for cancer will come if nothing works. I was like, this is not living. I don't know if I want to live like this.
How old were you around this period?
This was 2021.
Yeah. Wow.
So 2 years in. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I don't want to live life hospital in and out, medication, like pain all the time. So I did what my Venus and Sagittarius thought was best. I paused my whole life and moved to the other side of the world.
Of that.
Which actually, my hospital was also not really happy about because
they
I wanted to go
check
to
you.
Asia. Exactly. And it's dangerous. I wanted to go to Asia. That was a massive no, because if something happens and you're in a hospital there, then... So I was like, okay, what's Western and safe, but it's far.
Yeah.
And I went to Australia.
Oh, wow. That is far. I mean, from here, that's literally the other side of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very far. And even that, the week before my flight, I ended up in the hospital with a really bad, couldn't leave, postponed for 2 months.
Wow.
So it shortened my trip, like a lot of process. The hospital also didn't give me a go that I could go at all.
Wow.
They're like at your own risk and yada yada. And I took this bag because the injections needed to be in the fridge. I'm still taking my injections. I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go. And then, a letter from the hospital that the injections need to be in the fridge on the plane, and like that whole, wow, it's a mess. Anyway, I went, and that was my big eye opener where everything started to shift. And then I had a second big eye opener, which was my real eye opener just when I was about to leave Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened there? What happened from the first eye opener towards the second eye opener? There was a period apparently in Australia that was very healing. Can you give us like a short version of the first and second eye opener? Because was the eye opener, number one, the fact that you could leave, or was it something else?
No, the first eye opener was the news that they said if nothing changes, you're going to develop colon cancer. So that for me was like alarm bells.
Yes.
Nothing's working.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was the biggest one for me to leave.
Yeah.
They say you need to change, or you really change your situation if you're almost like a life-death situation. You really can't hold it anymore.
Yeah.
That was my like turning point of leaving everything behind, trust in the doctors also, and opening my energy field to... I was like a sponge, honestly. I was like, you know what? I'm going to find... My intention with going to Australia was also leaving everything behind, but I'm going to change. I need to heal. I cannot,
Yeah.
it's either healing or I don't live.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go on this like alternative route, literally and figuratively. That's very quickly when I landed in Byron Bay. It's like one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Gorgeous.
I met this beautiful man. His name is Ash. And we fell in love very quickly, basically on the first night. And eventually I had to share with him, I'm really sick. I can't hide it. Also, I was taking injections. I was kind of in a remission, but there was also an end date to the injections because you can't take them for the rest of it. It was like, you can take them for a few months. And then, so eventually I told him. And then one morning I woke up. We were staying in this really cute house and we did van life. And he slides me these pills. And I'm like, dude, I take enough pills. I don't need anything more in my body. And he was like, no, but these are probiotics. I was like, what are probiotics? And he was like, wait, you have a gut disease and you don't know what probiotics is? No one told you this? No doctor, no. It's like, no. And that's when the world opened. So he was 11 years older. Well, he still is. And already 10 years vegan. And really in a holistic world and the path and alternative and yoga and meditation. I was already flirting it back in Amsterdam because I needed to kind of open that way. And I was just, a whole world opened for me of how you can heal yourself. And he believed in me so much. And we traveled Australia and my whole nervous system relaxed and I fell in love. Obviously, the love hormone is really healing and nature. And I wasn't studying at the time. So everything was just the environment was created for healing.
Yeah.
But I was still taking the medication. My next step, so I was adding a lot of alternative healing methods, changing my diet, changing my routine, my lifestyle. And my next step was to cut out medication. And at the time, towards the end of my journey, I needed to go home. I needed to finish my studies. The side effects of my injections were causing growth in my eyes.
Oh, wow.
And this was my my eye opening. Second eye opening.
Quite literally.
Yeah, that's my dad joke. And my eye opening. Actually, they were closing a lot.
Love it,
Yeah. So at the end of this trip, I had these balls growing in my eyes, underneath, above.
Oh my God.
And like it was red and like weird. And I needed to go home. I needed to fix it. I needed to not fix it, but like it needed to be addressed. Yeah. Need to go back to studies. Like at some point, paradise, it's not life, reality. So I had to go to the eye hospital in Amsterdam. Came home, moved back to Amsterdam. He went to London because he's from England. Still very in love. So that became like a beautiful long distance relationship at the time before I moved to London. And these things in my eyes had to be surgically removed, which was a horror show because it didn't work. And then 3 surgeries. And it's like, if you don't like surgeries, pause for a while. But they flip your eyelids. Both. It looks like a Saw movie. And then they cut it out. And that's when I had that. I was like lying in the eye hospital and I was like, wait, I have something in my belly. What the fuck am I doing in an eye hospital? You know, like that was like my... And then I was like,
I can
I'm
so
done.
imagine.
I'm so done.
Yeah.
I'm so done. I think I quit medication with, like, I asked the hospital, they were like, you cannot quit. You have, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And I think I did cold turkey, which obviously is not,
don't do that for people listening.
Don't do that for people listening. No, do it safely with your doctor. But my doctor wasn't with me on it. So it was kind of.
It's hard then.
It was hard. Actually, I don't think I did cold turkey, but there was kind of like a cut moment for sure. And then that's when the real healing happened, the journey of...
How were the people, before we get into that, how were the people around you, like your parents and the people close, your friends and family, how were they feeling about the fact that you stopped medication? Because obviously I come from my own experience as well, where when I said I'm going to stop with my therapies, they would all look at me like, what on earth are you saying right now? So what was it like for you and your surroundings?
Not supportive. parents, specifically then, and specifically in the Netherlands, we grew up with a lot of trust in our healthcare system. Then here I come home with like an 11-year-older man that tells me to stop eating meat and go and do yoga and meditate, and like almost coming home barefoot with dreadlocks and like changed my whole life. And
Van life as well.
van life, he's a musician, just all just like a movie, I was 21. It was my parents like, okay, they said don't do two things: step in a van with a man you don't know and fall in love. And it happened on the same night.
God, no.
Yeah.
On the first night as well.
First night, yeah. No, he's incredible, and I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for him. And yeah, my parents didn't know. It was difficult for them to see me. They saw some improvement, but at the time I was still having symptoms. So it wasn't like my symptoms were going anywhere.
No, and at that point, you then hear you say, I'm going to stop medication. Obviously, that is really scary, because if you still have symptoms, like, well, what are you going to do then?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the dumbest thing in their eyes to do, because that's your lifeline. That's also the thing that your doctor tells you to do, so you do it.
Yeah. So what did you do?
I moved to London to do my internship and be with Ash. And that provided for me the space to not feel the stress of my school necessarily, because an internship is a different environment. You clock in and you clock out. Like the fashion school went on day and night.
Yeah, it's like hotel school. Like I always compare those two because it's so similar.
Wait, you did hotel school?
Yeah, I did hotel school.
Okay. That makes sense.
Right?
Also with yeah.
So yeah, it is the clock doesn't stop. It's 24 hours. It's work hard, play harder, work harder, play harder. So when you say about, the skipping the nights because you have a deadline in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been there as well. No.
Yeah.
So I can imagine for you to move to London and not have that stress.
Yeah. No, it was an amazing, and be with my partner at the time, and he was the most trusting in my ability to heal myself. Like I never heard of that as possible before, and that's when I had 6 months crazy research and self-experiment and like reading books and finding documentaries and YouTube videos and just researching everything I could about self-healing abilities of Crohn's and colitis, and starting doing it on myself. Found things that worked, definitely not, made things massively worse. Found things where I was like, wait, there's a bit of relief. And so it was basically, 6 months of
experimenting on yourself.
I was like my own guinea pig, like really, 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 like I did some things like, and I remember my parents came to visit, and that was just before my symptoms started to relieve and just before I started to have like my healing coming in.
Yeah.
And usually what happens is you become really sick before you kind of transcend it. Don't know why that is, but it's just that way.
I think it's your brain still grasping, like holding, like brain and nervous system, like grasping, holding on to like the little bit of control that it think it has.
Yeah.
Before being able to release and let go, and then have your body take over, basically.
Yeah.
That's how my theory of feeling about it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think also it's this kind of like last tricklement of victimhood and last tricklement of like identification of sickness that your shadow self or like the ego wants to hold on to, and then you kind of like break from that.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time my parents came to visit, and I was so sick, my symptoms were so severe, I was not taking medication, that I could only eat baby food. So I was like a stick. I had no muscle, no fat, no nothing on my body. It was just bones. Couldn't really walk the stairs because I was so weak. I couldn't, I was just like in this intense healing portal. So my parents came to visit, and they looked at my partner at the time. They were like, yo, what the fuck are you doing to our daughter?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really difficult time. Really difficult. And then perseverance, dedication, motivation, trust, faith. Like it's also because I had the faith. My partner had the faith, who I was with every day.
Yeah.
And it was feeding this. And at some point, at some point there became light at the tunnel. It's like, wow, hey, one day no symptoms. Okay,
Yeah.
can happen, and then massive inflammation again.
Yeah.
But wait, there's 2 days of no
Yeah.
symptoms. Wait, 3? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
doing something right. Okay, and then you make a mistake again, or a mistake, you try something and it doesn't work. So then another
Yeah.
week of, but at some point, the 3 days or the one day became a week. That became 2 weeks. That became 3 weeks. And then I remember going to Glastonbury, the
Oh my
festival,
God, amazing.
which was like the
But scary
biggest
for
trigger environment. You don't have a
yeah.
toilet. Like you can't just, you were thousands of people.
Yeah.
The food is shit. Like the food was good, but like you
Yeah,
don't
no,
have your
not for your
own
body necessarily.
dancing, like I was sober, nothing in my body, but yeah, like the anxiety of there's a line at the toilet, there's this outside,
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
it's like, because I had anxiety, like panic attacks when I was sick. So that was like the biggest test because I
Yeah.
put myself, it was exposure therapy, it was
Yeah.
full exposure therapy. And I came out of Glastonbury, no symptoms, no,
Wow.
nothing. And I remember after Glastonbury, I had a month of no symptoms. I did Glastonbury. It's like, I'm healed.
Wow.
It's gone.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much I want to get into. So, first of all, being like, what was it that kept you having trust and faith? Is it a feeling or is it something that you could put into words? Because if you're so sick, if you don't have any muscle or fat on your body and your bones, you're so sick, what made you keep that trust that this was the right path?
I think just inner survival and will to live. Yeah, I feel, because I know how it feels to not be sick, right? As a child. I think this is where that life or death situation came in. It's either I go through it or I don't want to live anymore. So what do I really have to lose?
Yeah.
And I was out of, and this is what's really important with healing, it's a threshold. It's really like the bridge where you feel like, okay, I'm going out of my comfort zone, because unfortunately, when we become sick, that becomes our comfort. So even being in a hospital, seeing the doctors, having the attention from them, from your parents, from your family, even though we're suffering, it's more home than visualizing what it would feel like to be healed. And I broke free from that belief. So I internally, and it's not consciously, this didn't happen. I now look at it back and I understand. But
It's
there was
nervous system and brain working together. I've just recorded an episode 8 from the top of my head. So if you guys want to know more about it, then go listen to episode 8 if you want to know more about how this works. But indeed, it's subconsciously.
Yeah. It's like a fire comes in. It's like this. It's just life force that comes alive and sets a boundary. And the boundary is like here and no fucking more. It's really like, I'm done being sick. I'm done being a victim. I want to live my life. I want to have a family someday. I want to travel. Like, what are things that fueled me? Mostly was traveling, doing the things I wanted. And when that's taken away from you and you're done with that, that's, I feel like, when the healing can start. Only then, because if other people want it for you, but you lack motivation or dedication, doesn't happen.
No.
If you think, okay, I'll try it, but there's not this, like, that energy, it's not going to happen, because it requires you to go into the shadow world and the depths of your own being and go through suffering in a way that you don't even know, because what's scarier than suffering or the state of being that we are now is what could happen on the other side of it, the unknown, even though that's more pleasant. Like, as humans, we cannot
our brains
fathom.
can't. No, our brains can't do that. They can't go there. Yeah, it's just beautiful. I'm just like it's landing in my body. I'm taking it in. So you were in London for 6 months.
Yeah. And then I came home.
Yeah, and then you came home. So environments change, the people around you change, circumstances change, everything that you've built around you that was a condition for you to heal is suddenly gone again.
Yeah.
Or not. That's the question. Was it gone, or was your body already at a stage where it could pick up without all of those really strict conditions around you?
I didn't go into activation again. I think
Wow.
my body at the time was in such a healthy state and so much empowerment that I did it and I could do it, that I was like, I can do anything.
Yeah.
I could do it anywhere. Also, London wasn't Australia. It was difficult. I was still doing my internship. We
Yeah.
were living in a home that was getting I was living in a construction site. I was still severely sick, and you know, and it's London, so it's similar weather to the Netherlands. Yeah, no, it wasn't an enjoyable experience at
Okay.
all. But I think to put myself in that circumstance and try to heal, it was similar than the Netherlands in that sense.
Yeah. Okay.
And then going back home, obviously an even more triggering environment, things that I resonate with as being sick, right?
Yeah.
But I could hold it. And it's again that belief. And I knew also more clearly what triggers an inflammation, what soothes it, all of these things. So I kept practicing. And when the wound is closed, and I think actually the most confident I became was going back home and going back to the hospital and saying to them, listen, it's gone, it's gone. And them not believing me, them saying, okay, we need to do tests, another blood test. I don't think I did colonoscopy, but just blood test. A week later, the test results came in. I remember sitting in the doctor's office and they turned the screen around.
Yeah.
And yeah, the doctors were like, you have zero evidence that this disease was ever in your body.
Wow.
Like zero.
Wow.
And I think that was not confirmation, because I knew I was okay.
Yeah.
I knew I was already in a state of healing. But for them and to see their disbelief of this is not possible. Me thinking it is possible. I want to tell the whole world. It was kind of like, okay, this is who I am now. I wasn't in fear that I was going back into activation or inflammation, actually. No.
Was it almost as if they and the results were giving you permission to really fully step into the new version of you? Also from an external point? Okay.
No, I really didn't need them
Need
for
that.
that.
No.
My ego did enjoy that I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And to see their disbelief. The pain that I felt afterwards was more in the sense of I haven't been to the hospital since. This was, just before COVID. 7 years ago, 8 years ago. The pain and the grief that I feel is that they never asked me how I did it. Yeah. 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 That's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, because they can't share the knowledge then.
Exactly.
If you were to summarize how you did it in a few steps, like a bullet point steps, what were the few things that you did that really helped you?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's difficult to,
I know.
I built this whole program around it, which is called Gut Alchemy, which we just closed a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I guided 41 women with gut issues. It was amazing. And it was my first time sharing it to the outside world like that. And what I've now done in hindsight is created 5 pillars around it. And it's a journey of internal and external healing or triggers.
Yeah.
So it's like a holistic approach to all difficult angles of how you can heal the gut barrier and gut lining and microbiome, and therefore inflammation and everything. Number 1 is mind and belief reprogramming, which we just touched upon a tiny bit. The mindset we have, victimhood or not, empowerment, belief, faith, and additionally, the power of your mind, how you can use that to actually activate the healing cells in your body, which there's a whole protocol for.
Yeah.
Then secondly, food as medicine. So food is important. I remember the first time I went to the doctor after I got diagnosed. This is very in my mind because my mom keeps reminding me. My mom asked, can it be anything to do with what she eats? And my doctor was like, no, nothing. Wow, it's in your gut. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway, so food is medicine. Food is energetics and food is medicine to how we eat, what we take in, and what energy we take it in, and also more practical and scientific approach. Then the third, I'm having it in the top of my mind. Because that's like, we have the internal trigger, the external trigger is food coming in. Then there's an internal trigger again with your emotional. I'm missing one. Which one am I missing? I'm missing one right now. It's okay. It'll come. The emotional connection to the illness or the disease, because your gut is the home of emotion. It's your second brain. So this is where emotions are housed. So usually when we have gut issues, it's related to unprocessed emotions or unprocessed trauma. So then we go into like nervous system regulation techniques also, because an unregulated nervous system means you cannot heal. It's impossible, and actually creating, like, we want to go into a parasympathetic nervous system. So this is more like also scientific in that approach.
Yeah.
And additionally being able to move through triggers, to move through, stuck emotion, how to express it, like how we both work with somatics.
Yeah.
The most deeply. And then there's the root cause, which is actually the last pillar, so I am forgetting one. But the root cause is the one kind of literally the cause of the root. So what has been the initial trigger to activate such a high state of imbalance in the body? Which then again is usually a deeper trauma. So we don't go into it in the program with 41 women. This is what I do one-on-one and then with my retreats, because it needs also a safe environment to be able to go through and to trauma. And this is something that I forgot to mention, because ulcerative colitis and Crohn's is an autoimmune disease. They say your body's attacking yourself, which is not true. Your body's not attacking yourself. Your body's trying to communicate with you. And usually when we start to have our first symptoms, something around that time just before might have activated such a long period of stress, grief, a stressful period. Maybe your parents got divorced, abuse, like really intense things that we hold. Then our body becomes in disbalance and we create dis-ease. Yeah.
So the root cause is something that, as you said, like you go into with a one-on-one and retreats, right? So is it for everyone, in your opinion, who lives with a chronic illness, that around the time that their symptoms started is where people can look for triggers to see what it caused?
Depends. Yes and no. For some people, the trauma is so big that after that we have an experience and disbalance, imbalance in the body. For some people, they're so good at suppressing that they can suppress it for years,
before
and
it
years
flares
and
up.
years. Yeah, before it flares up. Also, there have been many, not symptoms, but signs of the body before we perceive a disease. Many signs that we sometimes even don't know that there are little signs of the body from, hey, like I need some love, I need some attention. So because we're not taught what these are or how to be with them. So that's, yes and no.
Yeah.
Basically.
So we're going to go into the retreats in the program as well. Just shortly touching upon it, because you're the best space holder there is. I really love your work, and I've been very privileged to be in your space several times. I just want to, like, to not round off, but close the circle. How are you doing now? Years after you've healed yourself.
I'm doing so amazing. So amazing. Like I shared, I haven't stepped foot in a hospital since. I haven't taken any medication. My belly is still my greatest teacher. So this is also something that I guide the women with, and anyone that has discomfort in the body or pain. These are not actually discomfort. I mean, they're being perceived as discomfort, but they're actually teachers. Like, she's still my teacher. It's not like, she's more my ally and my friend now. So like I shared, I'm fully in remission. I don't have any symptoms, and when I feel like I've had a period of stress or long-term, now I'm in a bit of a position which is a bit more difficult on a personal level. So she tells me, okay, have a moment of rest, but no blood, no this, no that.
So how does she communicate now with you? What does that look like? When do you see it as a sign of I need to rest?
It's a good question. It can be like bloating, or like I hold a day of stool and then I know, okay, I'm not just holding stool, I'm holding something emotionally, or contracting something in my nervous system. And for me, it's a sign when I don't go to the bathroom for one day, I know that the next day she's going to be like a bit like upset with me because I didn't relax the day before. Sometimes it can be a bit painful.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen often usually, but then I know she needs some love. And then I treat her with, I have this beautiful oil that I work with, like a hot water bottle, chamomile tea, and I give her love, and I have my rituals, I have my practices, and I'm grateful that I created a life for myself where I love what I do.
Yeah.
Of course, sometimes there's a bit of a stressful period, but never to a point where, I think one of the things that I pride myself for is that I'm able to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I can travel to difficult countries that might have, I even lived in Mexico after I healed and had a parasite, that could set it off fully, and instead, no, it even deepened the connection or like bad food or just traveling. I eat what I want. I can even have alcohol now. I can have caffeine, can have gluten again. I can have lactose,
Amazing.
it's, from eating baby food and I
doing
can,
this. Yeah.
yeah. So that's, and actually, yeah, when long term she would say something, there's been one time that I had a flare up again in the past 7 years. And it was when I ignored my intuition about a man I was dating. Yeah. And I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't take medication. I knew I healed myself. I can do it again. Done. But I did all my protocols. I did everything. And still I was having blood. And then I went through, obviously, also therapists to go to therapists. So I went to a somatic therapist. I had a coach. And I was just suppressing my own truth.
You weren't following your gut.
I wasn't following my guts, no, or my intuition. And then basically the mirror was just very strong and just like, okay, this is not the right man. You know it, you feel it. And we separated. And I healed a week later.
It's so funny. Beautiful. Right. Very, very shortly, something about your retreats and your one-to-ones, because you have the God's Alchemy program, but you also do a lot of women's work. Can you shortly describe what you're doing in those sessions and in the retreats?
Oh, so much happening there. Mm-hmm. Like I shared, I only now come out with gut healing work. My main work is related around women. Yet I would say they're very connected because it's also about giving women space to transform or transmute things that feel stuck or unbalanced in their bodies. And this is through Retreats Group, which is like really beautiful women's space where we rewild and connect to our essence and nature, and basically giving like a platform of connection. Like all the things that I went through also comes in. So the women's wound, like really deep women's work, but connected always is this kind of healing, whether it's healing grief from the heart, whether it's something that their mother or father did to them or they feel they did. A wound they carry. It's very related to wounds, transforming them into empowerment and offering a space to just also be women in a society that it's really difficult to just be. And in my one-on-ones, we go obviously a lot deeper into personal stories and trauma, and because we have months together. And one-on-one, it's online. It's a different energy. Really deep things happen here because we can really go deep into one psyche and one nervous system and attune really beautifully to what this person needs. And many different women come, like different, like some of them have gut issues. Some of them, like I shared, just want to feel like a woman again. Some just don't feel that they're in their essence, so that's what they want to invite in, or blockages. They feel blocked somewhere. There's always a desire, you don't go somewhere do therapy when you once invite something. And the most beautiful thing in all my spaces and all my work is that it's already within. And you notice too with somatic work, I only guide inwards to the person, to the woman in herself. So I can share how I do things, but it's not, every story and everybody is unique. So I attune to that, but it's the woman doing the work.
Gorgeous.
I think that's the most important thing that a lot of spaces sometimes forget, or space holders, that we pressure our beliefs or our things upon others, like a guru type energy. I don't believe in that at all. I really believe like, wow, the answers are within. Our body tells what we need, our wombs, our bellies, our heart, and I create that safe environment to go into that.
So beautiful.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Honey, one last question.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at where you are right now, the life you've built, everything you've experienced, what would you tell your 17, 18-year-old self?
I'll take a moment for that. Well, it's a beautiful question. It's one I want to ponder upon. Yeah, it's cliche, but something that comes is like, just keep going, keep believing, keep trusting. Yeah, there's a life after.
Yeah.
You know, it's your greatest pain can become your greatest blessing. Yeah. Like, I live the life I live now because I became sick.
I think that said it all.
Mm-hmm.
I will, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your story. I know you've not shared your full story very often yet, so I feel very privileged that you chose to be here with me today to share your full story, being so open and vulnerable, and share your wisdom, your innate wisdom and beauty with the world. So thank you for being here. Where can people find you if they want to know more about you or your programs?
Firstly, thank you for having me, sweetheart. It was a beautiful experience. And yeah, same to you. You're a huge inspiration, and we've come so far from that moment in the yoga class as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're doing incredible work and inspiring so many people. It's really that, you know, like to be that inspiration source of other people, that they can do it too. It's a stewardship. It's an important stewardship, and it's a beautiful path of service. And I see you.
Thank you.
And how they can find me, they can find most of my work on social media and my websites, mostly.
Perfect.
So Manouk de Bijl, but I'm sure you put it in writing somewhere,
I'll
so they know how to
definitely
spell
put
it. I'm like, am I going to spell it?
I was just thinking, like, your name's not the easiest in English, actually. Okay, you know what? I will put your Instagram and your website in the show notes, in the description, so everyone can find you there. But it's manoukdebijl.com, right?
Yeah, manoukdebijl.com, and same for Instagram, Manouk de Bijl.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll leave everything in the show notes so that people can find it there. Thank you so much for being here again.